One little girl sat frozen on a park bench, her arms wrapped around a stuffed bear, her eyes wide with a silence far too old for 5 years. The storm had chased everyone indoors, except one man and his dog. Officer Jack Carter didn't expect to find a miracle that night, but Rocky did. Through the snow and silence, the German shepherd froze mid-stride, ears up, heart steady, and what they found beside that bench wasn't just a child, it was a second chance, wrapped in frost and faith. This is the story of how a loyal dog, a grieving officer, and a little girl with a stuffed bear reminded a sleeping town that love still shows up, even in the coldest hour. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. These are the stories that stay with you long after the snow melts. The storm had a way of silencing the town, not by muting sound, but by swallowing it whole. Wind coiled through empty streets like smoke. Snow fell in slow spirals that blurred all edges. At this hour, even the traffic lights blinked to no one. Windows were dark, porches buried, and yet, somewhere behind that frozen stillness, something was not right. Officer Jack Carter drove through the blizzard with the kind of calm that came from habit, not peace. 35 years old, with a jawline more clenched than carved, Jack wore his police uniform like armor, creases clean and personal. His frame was wiry and tall, wrapped tight in a department-issued jacket and a grief he never took off. His daughter Lily had died 5 winters ago, 5 years since she vanished into a whiteout less than 2 meters from their home. 5 years of pretending he was still a whole person. He didn't believe in signs, he didn't believe in much, but tonight, the air held a weight he hadn't felt in years. Beside him sat Rocky, his canine partner, a 4-year-old German shepherd, black and rust coat thick against the cold. Rocky was trained, disciplined, but he was more than that. He was instinct wrapped in fur, with eyes too old and too knowing for a dog his age. A faint silver line cut across his ear, a healed scar from a warehouse fire the year before. He rarely barked, he never rushed. When he moved, it was with the steady focus of something ancient. The cruiser's radio crackled to life in a burst of static. Unit 17. Do you read? Jack lifted the mic. This is 17. Go ahead. Received a call from a pedestrian near Northridge Park. They believe they saw a child alone, sitting on a bench. Snow's heavy, visibility's poor. Caller couldn't confirm. Jack's brow tightened. Any details? Age? Clothing? Negative. Caller left the scene, too cold. Just said it didn't look right. Jack responded with a simple, copy, and killed the mic. For a moment, he didn't move. His knuckles whitened on the wheel. Then, without a word, he turned onto the road that led toward the park. Rocky stirred, rising slightly in his seat. The dog sensed things Jack didn't have words for. The tires hissed against the ice-packed street as the cruiser crept through the intersection. The park wasn't far, just past the church, across from a shuttered playground. Jack's breath fogged against the inside of the windshield. He thought of Lily, not in the way grief sometimes ambushes, but in a quiet, inevitable way. Like a photograph your mind keeps hanging no matter how many times you try to take it down. Snow piled higher as he reached the gates of Northridge Park, the wrought iron barely visible under wind-blown drifts. Jack parked along the curb and shut off the engine. In the stillness, he could hear the wind moaning through the trees. He opened the door. The cold hit like a slap. Come, he said, not loudly. Rocky leapt down, tail low, ears perked. Jack grabbed his flashlight and scanned the whitewashed path leading into the park. They walked in silence. The beam of light moved across snow-covered benches, iced over trash bins, skeletal trees. The cold was absolute. No birds, no footprints, nothing, until Rocky stopped. It wasn't dramatic. No bark, no lunge. Just a sudden stillness. Head tilted, breath visible in the lamplight. Then he took one slow step forward, nose raised, body tense. Jack followed his gaze. There, under a flickering lamp, sat a tiny figure on a wooden bench, half buried in snow. Jack's steps slowed as he approached. The child couldn't have been more than 5. Her coat was oversized and thin, a dull purple, faded beneath the frost. Her head was bowed, face barely visible beneath tangled dark hair. In her arms, she clutched something, a stuffed animal, maybe, or a bundle of fabric, pressed to her chest with a desperate grip that spoke more than words ever could. She wasn't moving. Jack's heart thudded. He crouched down slowly, letting his flashlight drop to the snow. The soft beam lit her face, a pale oval, lips slightly parted, lashes crusted in white. Her small shoulders trembled faintly, but she made no sound. Rocky moved in, pressing his body gently against the base of the bench, his warmth steady, silent. The girl didn't react. "Hey." Jack's voice was a whisper. "Can you hear me?" She didn't look up. He reached out, gloved fingers hovering just over her arm. Her skin felt like ice through the fabric. Her stuffed animal, a bear, perhaps, was missing an eye and soaked through with snow. Still, no response. Jack slowly unzipped his coat, pulling the emergency blanket from his back pouch and wrapping it around her, careful not to startle her. Her head leaned gently against his hand, the only sign she hadn't completely shut down. He looked at Rocky. The dog said nothing, only shifted closer. Then Jack did something he hadn't done in a long time. He closed his eyes and said softly, "Don't let go, we're here now." The wind howled behind them, the snow kept falling, but something had changed. They had found her. He stepped out into the corridor, Rocky rising to join him. The shepherd leaned briefly against his leg, a silent, steady presence. Jack looked down the hallway, where the nurse's station glowed in sterile light and the windows still shivered with frost. This town, what kind of place could take so much from people yet still return fragments like this? What kind of gray stitch lives back together with snow and silence? He didn't know, but tonight, at least someone had found someone, and for now, that was enough. The room behind him was quiet, too quiet for a hospital, even in the early morning hours. Outside the window, the storm had begun to die, leaving the world blanketed in heavy, undisturbed snow that clung to the windowsill like a breath held too long. In room 213, the heater purred its soft, persistent hum, wrapping itself around the silence like a lullaby refusing to end. Rocky lay curled beside the hospital bed, his fur still slightly damp from the night's storm, though someone had dried most of it with a towel. His nose twitched as he dozed, ears flicking now and then, ever alert beneath the stillness. One paw extended just enough to brush the side of the hospital gurney, as if even in sleep he insisted on touching her, this little girl who had somehow chosen him. Emily lay under a thin, heated blanket, her cheeks regaining color inch by inch. Her tiny, bird-like fingers were still wrapped around the scraggly stuffed bear. Her breath came slower now, deeper. For the first time since she'd been found, her face had softened, not drawn tight in fear or cold, but into something gentler, trusting. Then, slowly, her eyes opened. She didn't blink, just looked. The ceiling, the overhead light, the side wall, then Rocky. A whisper so soft it was almost lost in the hum of machines. "Where's the dog?" Rocky stirred instantly, as if he'd heard her soul rather than her voice. He stood, stretched with a soft groan, and placed his front paws gently on the edge of her bed. His eyes met hers, and Emily's face changed, not startled, not confused, but brightened just slightly, like a lamp flickering back to life. "There you are," she breathed, reaching a trembling hand toward his muzzle. He lowered his head until her fingers pressed gently to the fur between his eyes. "You're warmer than the blanket." She smiled then, a small, drowsy curl of her lips, but it was enough. Jack had been standing in the doorway for a while, unnoticed. He hadn't meant to linger, he'd simply come to check, but when he saw her eyelids flutter, and that small, certain voice asked about the dog before anything else, something in him cracked. And when she touched Rocky's head with the kind of reverence people usually reserve for miracles, Jack looked away. He cleared his throat quietly. Claire appeared beside him a moment later, holding a tablet and wearing her usual guarded expression. Her hair was tied back as always, her steps precise, professional, but when she reached the threshold and saw the scene inside, Rocky gently pressing his weight into the child's hand, Emily whispering secrets only dogs understand, she stopped. "She asked for the dog first," Jack said, his voice barely more than air. Claire nodded. "She doesn't even know where she is," he added, but she remembered him. Claire looked at Jack for a long moment, then wordlessly reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. It was a light touch, hesitant, but steady. Jack didn't move. Her hand remained there, not as a balm or an apology, but something older, recognition. Jack kept his eyes on the child, but his throat tightened. "She looks like Lily," he whispered. Claire's fingers tensed slightly. She does. Neither of them mentioned how Lily had never woken up. Inside the room, Emily was now telling Rocky something about Buttons the bear and how they'd gotten lost together. Rocky, for his part, sat upright like a statue with a warm heartbeat, ears tilted, tail slowly swaying against the hospital floor. "Does this town ever stop breaking people?" Jack asked suddenly. Claire blinked at him. "I mean, every street's got some story like this. Missing girls, drunk drivers, lost dogs that somehow become heroes. This town eats people, Claire, then spits them out with frostbite." Claire didn't answer immediately. She watched Emily run her fingers along Rocky's collar. "You ever think maybe it also saves them?" she said softly. "Maybe not all at once, maybe not cleanly, but sometimes." Jack sighed. "You still believe that?" he asked. "I never stopped." Silence returned, heavy, but not suffocating. Claire checked her tablet, then gave a small nod. "Her vitals are stabilizing. I'll contact child services soon. See if they can reach the number from the note." Still no update from her mom. "Let me know when Sarah wakes up," Jack said. "She's stable but sleeping," Claire replied. "She'll be moved out of ICU later tonight." "She's lucky," he said. "They both are." Claire tilted her head. "So are we." He almost smiled. Inside the room, Emily's eyelids drooped again. Her hand slipped from Rocky's snout and fell gently over Buttons' worn fur. Her last words before sleep reclaimed her were a soft murmur. "He's mine now, okay? He found me." Jack stepped back from the doorway. He didn't know what came next. He didn't know what he'd tell the department or why he suddenly cared so much about one child who didn't belong to him. But maybe belonging wasn't about bloodlines. Maybe it was about who showed up in the cold when no one else did. Rocky emerged from the room a minute later, as if sensing something had shifted. He padded to Jack's side and sat, shoulder square, gaze forward. Jack looked down at him. "You warm enough, buddy?" Rocky blinked. Jack rubbed the top of his head. "Yeah, me too." Down the hallway, the nurse's station glowed in soft white. A janitor passed by with a mop, whistling under his breath. Outside, the sky had started to lighten, the faintest suggestion of dawn slicing the storm clouds open. In this town, where snow buried memories and silence stitched old wounds, a little girl had found warmth in a dog's heartbeat, and Jack, just maybe, had found something like hope in hers.
If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.